unified modeling language is applied is the functional view. In the functional view, the features of the new system are determined based on the data gathered. An in-depth understanding of the requirements are needed in order to come up with a more detailed deliverables. This is the focus of our module, the construction of use case model. After completing this module, you will be able to identify the actors and use cases of a system, develop a use case model to capture software requirements, and integrate awareness of using proper notations in creating a use case model. The functional view as one of the principal deliverables of the requirements workflow is best described using the use case model. The purpose is to focus on the goal of the process or the feature of the system. These composes the use case diagram, use case description, and use case scenario. Speaking of use case diagram, this is a visual representation which describes the feature that a new system must provide for the users. Functions express as goal that a user will be performed, and this consists of the following elements: the actor, use case, system, association, dependencies, relationship, and generalization. These are the elements that you need to understand and learn how to apply them in order to come up with a more detailed use case model. Understanding the elements of the use case diagram. Before we deep dive into constructing use case diagram, we have to familiarize first, understand the symbols that are being used in the construction. So as mentioned before, there are 6 elements in the use case diagram. First, we have the actor. Then we have the system. Then the use case. We also have association, which is basically represented by a line. And dependencies, this one here, the arrows are dependencies, and also another arrow which represents the generalization. It is not just about memorizing the symbol, it's also about understanding how we are going to apply the symbols in order to construct a use case diagram or a well-defined use case model. Defines the boundary of the system in relation to the actor who is using it and the feature it must provide. This stickman represents the actor. So the actor doesn't only refers to a person who triggers the action. This can also refers to the system or the third-party system or the device that may trigger or that may trigger the feature of that particular system. So again, the actor might be a person, a third-party system, or a device. The ellipses here, or the oval shapes, are the use case. So use case identifies a key feature of the system, just what is being mentioned just a while ago. These are the functionalities of the system. Without these features, the system will not fulfill the user's requirement. Since these are tasks, or it describes a task or a goal, then the use case naming must be in a verb phrase. Like for instance, you have here the view item. Just like that. Or you can have here register account. So as you can see in the pattern, there is verb and a noun to best describe the use case. Take note also that the placement of the use cases are not according to the sequence of execution. It is not similar to um, flowchart or activity diagram. Again, the focus of this is to illustrate the functionalities of the new system. Another one is the association. So this is represented by a straight line from that connects the actor to the use case. So it means to say that there is an interaction between the actor and the use case. So in other words, this represents the triggering of a certain feature. So another important element that we need to understand is the dependency. When are we going to apply the dependency? So dependencies identify or dependency identifies a communication relationship between two use cases. Later, I'm going to explain to you the different relationships or dependencies and how are they going to apply. The next one is the generalization. Generalization, and by the way, dependencies are represented by a broken arrow or arrow lines, and the generalization is also represented by an arrow, but take note that the arrowhead is not shaded. The arrowhead or the shaded arrowhead has different meaning, and this one is also has different meaning. Now, when you say generalization, this defines a relationship between two actors or two use cases, where one use case inherits and adds to or overrides the properties of the other. The next is the use case dependencies or relationships. If you are just simply designing a business use case, there is no need for you to specify the relationship between two use cases. But if you are going to have or to construct a more detailed use case model or a use case system use case, you need to specify the relationship of two or more use cases. So one relationship or dependency rather is the include dependency. The notation is a broken arrow line with an indicator include. So as you can see, the word include is enclosed with an angle bracket, two angle bracket. And the other one is the extend dependency or extend relationship, which is represented by an arrow line also with the word or indicator extend. So when is this applied? Example, when are we going to apply the include dependency? Let's take a look at this example. We have here two use cases. Let's say there is an actor here. Now this use case illustrate the functionality of an online shopping application. For example, the buyer or the customer triggers this action, order item. In reality, before you could order an item, make sure that there is available item in the storage or in the warehouse. Otherwise, you cannot order the item. Or the seller would tell you, there is no available item, you cannot order it. Or maybe you can order that one to the other store or from the other store. Okay, so when is the include dependency is applied? Okay, you have here two use cases. Order item is the base use case, and then the check item availability is the sub use case. We can term this one as sub-function rather. So this is your main function, the order item is your main function, and then your sub-function is the check item availability. Now for the system to completely or accomplish the base use case, it is mandatory or it is necessary to execute the sub use case, which is check item availability. Just like what I have mentioned, you cannot order an item unless unless it is available, something like that. So that is why we have to use the include dependency. Another example is, let's say, buy product. This is still in relation to online shopping. So if let's say when a user triggers this buy product, or let's say, yeah, diba, in reality we can browse the products, right? We can see the products just like in Lazada. You can see the products, but if you attempt to buy the product, the system will ask you to log in account. This is your user account. So therefore, the relationship between this buy product and login account is include. When you try to buy a product, when you try to trigger the buy product task or feature in that online shopping application, it triggers another use case that is to ask you to that would ask you to log in your account. Otherwise, you cannot buy the product. Therefore, the relationship is include. The next dependency is the extend. So extend is defined as one use case may not need the help of the other use case to accomplish the goal. So it means to say that the sub use case may not be executed just to complete the base use case. So there is an alternative course of action, or there is an option. Like example here, this is still in an online shopping application. When a user triggers to view an item, he or she has the option whether to browse the item, or to just search the item immediately using the search box. So there is an alternative course of action. So it doesn't necessarily mean that these two use cases should be accomplished first in order to complete the base use case. So that's how you use the extend dependency. Another example for the extend dependency is this. Example, the use case is generate report. Say the staff would like to print a report. So he has or she has an option whether to generate receipts, or she wanted to generate customers list, just like that. So this is extend. This one also extend.